Good morning. This is Marissa with Book Studio 16, and we are here with one of our favorite teams here at HarperCollins. We love checking in with them every couple months. It's the Harper Art Department. They design amazing book covers, and we're going to talk to them about what they've been up to and what's coming out next. So first we want everybody to introduce themselves.
I'm Milan. I'm the art director here.
I'm Joanne. I'm a senior designer.
I'm Sarah. I'm a designer.
I'm Jessica. I'm the design assistant.
I'm Andrea. I'm a senior designer.
All right, so let's just jump right in because we have a lot to talk about. Let's start with
Go Ask Allie.
Go Ask Allie.
Cool. We just want to tell you a little bit about the process for the photo shoot we did for this.
All right, I just have to tell you, speak up, because the last time people were saying they couldn't hear you.
Sorry.
All right.
I'll shout. So this was the mood board that we created for this photo shoot. We had the idea, or rather the author had the idea of doing kind of an advice booth, because the book is about, her giving advice on various topics, funny advice.
So who is Allie Wentworth?
It's a great question.
She's a comedian.
She's a comedian. She's had a few shows on YouTube. She's pretty well known. She's had two other books out that have been a big success for us. So this is kind of following on from that a little bit. And she had the idea for this advice booth, kind of Lucy from Peanuts idea. So Milan and I worked on this together, and that was kind of the beginning point for us, was just finding some inspiration for the idea, like how we're going to do this, how we're going to get it built, what's it going to look like. And then this was kind of our sketch, and it actually looks quite a lot like the finished product, but Milan came up with that. You want to talk a bit about that?
How did you get it built?
We hired a prop stylist who hired a professional.
So this was actually built, and then you shot on set?
Yes.
Yep.
So she was not photoshopped into that. You guys actually came up with that and had it built to your specs.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I can show you a few of the outtakes from that. We shot her with like a few different props. That's her dog Daisy in there. I'll just fly through them.
Okay, people are already telling us that you have to speak up.
Sorry.
We wanted a summery, bright feel because it came out recently,
And she's very, very funny. She writes about her own life and her own experiences, and she doesn't spare herself. So, and this is actually her dog, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So as the shoot progressed, we decided to, make it a little more chaotic.
And do you guys go to the shoots?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And who goes? All of you, or just
Joe and I and the editor came,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and the whole crew.
But you get to go. You get to dream up the idea, and then make sure that it actually happens in real
Yeah,
life. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
And if you see it on the back, it's the aftermath of her advice giving.
So people are starting to tune in. We're with the Harper Art Department. They design amazing book covers. So please, this is your opportunity to ask them questions and to let us know where you're watching from, to give your comments about their amazing work. So we just got done with Go Ask Allie, Allie Wentworth's book. Let's move on.
I'm next.
You're next.
I'm next.
All right.
Okay, so this was a very different process with this book. This was basically, we were working on reissuing 3 of Kathleen Tessaro's books. So these are books that had already come out in like the 90s, I think. And so I don't have the previous covers, but they looked, they're just kind of fashion-y illustrations of women, and they wanted a different feel for them. So this book had already come out before I started working here, and they wanted to follow this style for the next set of books that they were going to be reprinting. So I had 3 that I started working on, and they all have a different plot, but they have this kind of thing going on. Stylish women, or aspirationally stylish women. And so I first started out just looking for lots of images of women from the past. Usually I kind of if the time period looked too specific, that was usually taken off the table. It was kind of this ambiguous.
You don't want it
but-
to look like a costume.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But it had to look not current, but not from any kind of really specific moment. So I started looking for. There's gonna be a ton of images.
Beautiful.
Just tons of different.
And
women.
you knew you wanted color.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew I wanted color, and that was the hard part. Actually, was finding nicely colored images because a lot of these were in black and white, or they had been recolored in kind of a strange way. So I started off with a book called The Debutante, and this project just involved not changing any of the type. Like, this layout will stay the same. It was really just looking for images. So we just went through tons
Gorgeous.
and tons of rounds. So this book was about a debutante. But a lot of debutantes look like they're brides, like that one. So that got rejected. And then it was just looking at different
So
colors.
tell us
There's
about the process.
Yeah.
So you selected the images, and then what happened? Who looked at them from there?
So after I put together a set of designs, so let's say this was my first set of designs, we have weekly meetings where we meet with the publisher and the editor and someone from sales and marketing, and our entire design team goes into those meetings and we show the designs that we're working on, and we get feedback on the designs. And so with this one, they liked this feel, but she looked like she was a bride. She wasn't supposed to look like a bride. So I looked for another round of images that were similar in some way to this, but not bride.
Got it.
So that, and then we go from there. So then I put together another set of designs, and I show it the next week in the meetings, and it continues until we get to a place where they feel like they want to show it to the author.
And the font they liked.
Yeah,
out of
so
the
this
gate.
was from, I don't actually know, I think Robin might have designed this originally. Robin designed this originally. So she had chosen this font, and they wanted to follow this design
Okay.
and have that be the set design. So eventually, after, I'll have to show all these, the rounds and
them, please?
rounds. Yeah.
Okay.
This was what they decided on, and this is the book.
Amazing.
So that was the debutante, and then
Did they consciously decide to not have her face?
yeah. So that's always interesting with humans on books. I think people end up enjoying books that have faces that are a bit cut off. I think it's a little jarring to have an entire face. Not all the time. Of course, this one works so well. Her look is very important. And actually, the next book that I worked on in this series, they decided on this image, and she was also looking at you. But it depends. This one, I think she made an interesting shape. Like, she has this interesting shape going on that does well with her head, not there completely. But I think I showed them different designs with her eyes in the photo, without her eyes. So all options are usually covered.
I think it's interesting because if they're looking at you, you feel included. If they're looking away, you feel like maybe you have to look like that person to picture yourself in the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
definitely.
this picture is timeless. It could have been taken yesterday. It could have been taken 40 years ago.
Yeah, and that was kind of the idea. This book involves a woman who is, she is, I think she was described as homely. So she's still pretty elegant. But this is clearly a little bit different than these two women. She's not in a gown
Right.
with a parasol or
Got it.
at a ball. So yeah, and I think she actually, this takes place partially in the 80s. So that was a bit of a challenge because I didn't want it to look too 80s. I had like comps with 80s
Yeah, that's very
women.
80s.
But we tried all different time periods with this one. This is definitely a different time period. But this one actually got pretty far. They liked this one.
People are already weighing in. They're saying hello from Georgia. They're eager to learn about what you do. Your artwork is amazing, beautiful, like Vogue photo shoot. Somebody says, hola, great covers. Good afternoon from Europe, great covers. And Seth said, this will help me since I'm a book cover designer myself. Thanks for sharing.
Cool.
All right, so
Yeah.
people are starting to ask questions and to tell us where they're watching from, and we encourage people out there to keep doing that. And do you have...
Yeah, this was the last one in the series that I did. And that started off with a lot of different kinds of flirty women.
Wow.
So with that was too pin-up-y, I think. This was too bedroomy. I don't know. This looked too much like a perfume ad, which it does. So none of these were exactly right.
And here's an example with her face in it and with her eyes cut off.
Yeah, and it changes it quite
It
a lot.
totally changes it.
And then we moved a little bit further into something like this. This one involved notes being left for a woman to find. They liked this, but they wanted to see the background in pink.
Did they feel that you couldn't see the title?
That
as well?
probably, yeah. I think if we had gone further with this image, that would have
Become
been
a
dealt
thing.
with more. Yeah, because it is hard to read on the pattern of her dress. And then they thought maybe they wanted a man in the photo. These were pretty romance novel-y.
Yeah, this makes it seem like a completely different book.
Yeah, and so they wanted to see it with a man and a woman interacting, because that was what the book was about, but that wasn't doing it either. So we went back to kind of more like this time period.
Megan wants to know, where did the photos come from?
I believe all of these photos they all come from different stock sites. A lot of them came from Getty, but a lot of the images that I found in Getty were from collections like Vogue or Condé Nast, like collections. A lot of these older ones, so like this one. Oh, look.
And then you could license them for the book jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how it always worked.
Okay.
But then other sites like just other stock sites.
Got it.
Trevelyan and Archangel. But then we ended up going with this image, which I think is a bit more, that's an ambiguous time period as well. It has, I think, a retro feel to it, but it's definitely not like something like this, which is clearly more based in a moment.
And how long did this process take? Months?
Yeah. Does it take months?
Okay.
It can take months. This took I think a few months, but there weren't any huge snags. It was really just about finding the right image, and I think
And because there was a lot of them.
yeah, so it was just a lot of sifting through and showing these different options, but because nothing but the type was changing, it wasn't as complicated as I know. Like, go ask Allie, like the type had to be decided on, all the placement, there's a lot of type on there. This was a little more straightforward in some ways.
And these only came out in softcover.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, this set.
So let's just take a quick look at the back. You also had to decide what colors the backs were going to be. Did you select this stuff as well?
I did.
All right. So even
did.
that's a lot of work.
And I tried to go with similar to this one because I was still trying to follow the basic design of this first one, which is, they're not, a series in the sense that it's not one story, but it's a series design.
Got it.
So I tried to have some kind of element in the corners, and the same with the spines too. This one is a little different. This one ended up looking nice just plain, but the other ones have the design coming out of the spine.
It really works because I want these.
Oh,
Just looking at them as
Good.
objects and pictures, it makes me want to read them. It's doing exactly what you guys set out to do.
awesome.
So people are saying
Yeah.
books are a huge part of my life, but I'm just now learning the massive amount of work that goes in to these books. So many disciplines involved. We couldn't agree more with that. All right, so we're with the amazing Harper design team. They do so much work here every day, and we'd love for you to ask them questions and to tell where you're watching from. What should we do next?
You want to do Captain Moran?
I would love to.
All right.
All right.
I just wanted to talking about.
Now you got to speak up.
I'll speak as loud as I can.
Okay.
I apologize if I'm too quiet. Sarah was just talking about finding images about a specific, or rather a not specific time period, like finding something that can work, feels timeless and can work across, you know, a number of books. And we actually had the opposite thing happen with this book. This is Caitlin Moran's new book, How to Be Famous. It came out a couple of days ago.
And it's amazing.
It's fabulous, and the cover is actually based off her last novel, How to Build a Girl. So this was our starting point to get here. And I was just going to walk you through a little bit of the process of how we got to that.
So you designed both covers.
I did not actually design this one. I did design this
Okay,
one. So
got
this
it.
was inspired by this.
Okay.
So this is our mood board for, this was another photo shoot that we did, and Caitlin was very, she had a lot of ideas about the specific time period. It's early 90s UK grunge scene, so a lot of like Courtney Love looking girls is what we kind of wanted to get at. And we did a lot of photo research for this, but we couldn't quite find the right look. It was really hard to find the girls that Caitlin had in her mind, and she's from the UK and she's lived through this, so to her it's important for it to really look how it does.
And
in her
she wrote
memory.
for rock magazines.
Exactly, and that's what this book is about. It's about a young girl who her crush becomes famous, and she tries to follow him with her writing and starts working for a magazine, and she becomes famous herself this way. So that was our starting point. And we actually went through a ton of images for this, so I'll just fly through some for you. These are all stock images. We tried some different type. These girls were a bit too fashiony. Same with this girl. She really wanted it to look real.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes with stock photography, that's not always possible because things do look quite polished a lot of the time. Just looking for groups, female bands. We did play with the same kind of template the whole way through because we were trying to keep it similar looking to How to Build a Girl.
So here you hit the font.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is the image the UK is using actually, and we had some trouble getting the rights to that image. We were really close to using that, but unfortunately sometimes it gets tricky using faces of people when you don't know who they are, because it can be, you know,
A legal issue.
a legal issue, because you can't assume necessarily that they want to be on a book cover, so sadly that one didn't work out. But we kept going with similar feeling girls, crowds, shouting. And then we came to this one. We were kind of hovering on this one, and anyone who has a galley of this book will notice that this is what's on it. But these people just never felt quite right to Caitlin, and we even tried. Sarah here sitting next to me, we shot her wearing a fur coat.
Oh, that's you?
Yeah, I think it's not even my hand. It's just the
coat.
coat.
So we bought Sarah a fur coat, put her in it, took a bunch
that's
of photos.
brilliant.
Yeah, we had a photo shoot.
Right here.
Right here.
Yeah. And then I photoshopped it onto this girl.
Wait, let me just see. Let's go back. Okay, so
So here she's wearing leather in the first one, and in the second one she's got this fur coat.
so you took a photo
Mm-hmm.
and then photoshopped the jacket in.
Yes.
Of your teammate
Yes.
here. And you shot it here.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Amazing.
And I think it came out really well, but it still wasn't quite what we were going for, so went back to the drawing board on this one, and we actually ended up doing a whole new photo shoot of our own for this. We couldn't find an image that had the right clothes, we couldn't find an image that felt like what Caitlin was trying to portray. So we hired a photographer, his name's Matthew Canbergs, and I was somehow roped into being in the photo shoot.
So are you in these?
So, yeah.
All right. Point out who you are.
I'm wearing this leopard fur coat, and then our friend, our coworker Erin, is here too. She's an editor in the editorial department. So we went out into Brooklyn and just got a stylist, and we gave her this mood board and told her, you know, this is what the book's about, and we're trying to portray this.
So who picked the clothes?
The stylist did.
Okay, she read the book probably.
Yes, and
Okay.
based on what Caitlin had asked for, she went out and picked out this fur coat.
Did
and
you
all
get
these
to
cool
keep the
clothes.
coat?
I did not.
Aw.
I know. I wish I had. So I just brought a few examples of photos that we'd shot that day. It was really fun. We just had some fake cigarettes and some fake alcohol and tried to look as cool as possible.
Are you just saying that?
No,
That
they
it
were
was fake? Okay.
At least the cigarettes were fake.
Okay.
To my memory. So yeah, we just went out. And
These are amazing photos. And I love how you guys really, you're so dedicated. You want that shot.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to rest until you get that shot.
It was worth it.
Okay.
And here are a couple more. And the photographer was really conscious to leave a lot of space for us, because obviously when we get to the end result, we need to have a little open space for her name and the title and everything. And this was the one that the author and the editor liked the best, so that's where we ended up.
First of all, I absolutely love this cover. It feels like the book to me.
Mhm.
When I read the book and I look at this cover, I live through those times and it just zaps me right back.
Oh, glad to hear it.
And this one, I just want to hang on my wall. It's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, he did an amazing job, the photographer. He
Wow.
really captured it.
And did Caitlin love it?
I hope so, yeah.
The book came out
Yeah,
on
2 days ago.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, that's right.
So, how long did this process take?
This one took a while, because we did spend a lot of time trying to find a photo, because a lot of the time the right photo is out there, you just have to find the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for this one, it was just really hard to get the clothes, the people. There was a lot of moving parts that I feel like it was just really impossible to find something that fit within her narrative. So I think we did the right thing in the end.
So
Doing
only
our own photo shoot.
because I'm curious, because we work in the video department, we're off on a shoot. People are always looking for us. Where are we? So, what does your outbox say? Off on a photo shoot? Don't call me.
It was a
until-
Saturday.
Okay.
So
So you guys
we
even
did it
work
on the
on
weekend.
Saturdays to do it, to get that shot. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
All right. Amazing. And I think it really, really paid off. And if I didn't work in a place that published this book, if I saw this in a bookstore, I would immediately be attracted to it.
That's great.
Did you pick the pink?
I did. Just to follow on a little bit from this.
But it's the
book
right
here.
pink.
Yeah.
Not too girly.
A little punky.
Yeah. People are saying, I love the photographs. I love the black and white photos, the outfits. Somebody's checking in from Dallas. Here's an interesting question.
Sure.
How do you choose the cover for How to Be Famous from so many different options? They're all so good. I would have been so confused. Is it because you have a connection to the material?
Do you mean how do we pick the cover, as in how do we choose the end
Yes.
result?
Yep.
That's more, we're kind of interpreting it in our own ways, so that's where things do get a little bit tricky, because, you know, everything, especially creative things, everything is subjective. But the editor and the author really choose the final jacket, and they know the material best, especially the author in this case, so that's really the best answer to that question.
So, as I keep saying, we're here with the amazing Harper design team that they design these amazing covers, and we're talking to them about projects that they've done in the past and books that are coming out. So tell us where you're watching from and keep asking us questions. All right, what's next?
We've got the Lightkeeper's Daughters next. So this is another paperback that I did. So this is kind of an example of how different the hardcover and the paperback can be. This came out last year.
I think so.
Last year. So this is the hardcover, and it's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's on pearlized paper. It's kind of shimmery, and this had its own like very long process to get here. Picking the right lighthouse, picking the right, there's a woman up here, the right woman in the right clothing, the right colors, all of that. But
And
then,
your team designed this jacket as well.
we hired a freelance designer for this one.
Okay.
I believe.
But you were involved in the
Eventually.
process of it.
I wasn't personally involved in this process
Uh-huh.
for the hardcover. This one was also helped by Robin. So this
Got
was
it.
also, I think actually a lot of people worked on this. I think other people on our team worked on this
But it
as
came
well.
through the team.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So this one took a long time to get here. But then there's a paperback that's going to come out of this. And sometimes we'll just adapt the cover from the hardcover and just make it into a paperback. But this time they wanted to try something different. So I started off kind of similar to the hardcover, but maybe a little more commercial, like something. I think they really wanted this to be in places like Target, and there's a specific kind of look that people go for when they go into it, like a Target. They want to pick it up and have a certain kind of design. So this was maybe playing off of this a little bit, and then they went in a different direction. So again, this was before it, I didn't work on these designs, but these are just the different rounds that it went through. This was designed by our former coworker, Sarah Brody, and she was, again, kind of working off of a similar idea, beach, one woman, and then I know they had a really hard time picking the right woman, and there are just so many that she was doing. And then something different, like a different perspective of a woman.
These are
with
all
the lighthouse.
very different.
Yes, yeah. It's pretty amazing how many variations you can have on a similar
We want her
theme.
hair in a braid. No, we want her hair down.
Yeah,
We-
exactly.
So
Yeah, so all these different, you know,
This is
some
interesting.
writing at the bottom, different ornamentation around the image, and none of these felt quite right.
how do you know when it doesn't feel quite right?
Well, again, it doesn't feel quite right to the editor and the author.
Got it.
And that's usually, those are the two people that are at the core of this, like working together. The author is really at the core of it. So I think with this, it didn't have the right atmosphere, which might make more sense when I show this round. So this is when I took a stab at it. So these are the designs that I showed initially. So
Wow.
again, just different. There was this idea that this was these daughters were they wore pants, but they were from a period of time when like women wearing pants wasn't the most common thing. So finding images of women from this time period wearing pants was really hard. So this is one of the images that I found with that. But again, like different. But this was the kind of perspective that the editor said that she really liked. Kind of like woman closer, like in the foreground, looking at a lighthouse that was far away. But the lighthouse was supposed to be a specific lighthouse. It was a wooden lighthouse, which is what they had eventually found here, which I think they had to Photoshop wood onto this lighthouse.
Because most of them are made out of stone.
Exactly.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
So that was hard. So then I tried looking for lighthouses that were more ambiguous.
Blurry.
They were blurry. Kind of different to like, Joe's process with this. All of mine ended up being like big collages of lots of different images. So this woman was not in front of this lighthouse. I think the image that we were looking for didn't exist, and we couldn't have a photo shoot to create that image. So I had to find elements and make it myself.
It's amazing.
So that's what I started doing with these women, and then this was ended up being the woman that they really liked.
It feels dynamic, not passive.
Yeah, and I think that was it. There had to be when you're saying like when it feels right. I think that's what this was. There was the atmosphere was right. It had a moodiness to it. There was like a longing.
But it's active.
Turmoil. Yeah, there's like something there. And so then there was kind of the more, I don't know, maybe this is interesting to people. There's the more kind of tediousness of like, where do you put the quote? How is it readable? Like that. Yellow.
This
The
could
bottom.
sometimes be unbelievably difficult.
It's sometimes the hardest part. Anyway, but this is what they ended up choosing.
Okay, so where did where it ended up on the
It
bottom?
ended up on the bottom.
Nice and
which
easy to
makes
read.
sense.
So here's a question for all of you. You're working with people who are masterful with words. And sometimes they're not so great with images, or they don't know how to express what it is that they feel about images or see in their head. It could be a completely different art form. So how do you translate what it is that they're trying to say to you into an actual image? Is it a little bit like psychology? Is it a little bit like you have to read their material and get a feel for it? Or is it just changes for each author?
I think it can be different for everyone. It can be difficult. It's a different language, like you said. We speak in a different language than they do, and sometimes it is a bit hit or miss. With something like Catelyn, especially, it's like she's writing based on her own life. So what she's picturing and what she's thinking about, you know, maybe that doesn't exist in a photograph that I can find. So sometimes it can be hard to get at that. But just asking lots of questions. And just trying different things, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of process of elimination. Like you try. I think you have to try it out. I think that's the thing with translating something into a visual language. You have to see it to actually know how it's going to hit you. I think that's when you just have to like put it on paper and show it.
You just have to be brave and get it out there.
Yeah.
And it depends if it's a novel or a nonfiction or a comedy book, you know?
Yeah.
You know what you're going in
Right.
That's true.
to present. So
I think that's
less subjective if you're doing nonfiction.
That's what I've come to realize is
There's a lot of, you're working within the context of, you know, the genre. And so there are certain things that make something, for whatever reason, look like a fiction book or look like, you know, like this kind of book versus this kind of book. And you start to know those elements. How type is laid out.
What type is appropriate for something.
Absolutely.
Too, like this wouldn't necessarily make sense on a book like that you have done.
Yeah.
This book, so you're right about that. Definitely.
even little
Different
things like the little
Mm-hmm.
little frills and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That works for a book like this that's kind of historical fiction.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for a book that's more modern.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So, do we have anything else to discuss? Any other books that you guys want to talk about?
Do you have any other books?
It's just, I mean, you guys, how many books do you work on per season? And a season we mean by like a fall season or a winter season.
120, 130.
That's amazing. And how many people are on your team?
7.
So these guys are busy all the time, doing photo shoots on the weekend, buying fur to take photos of themselves. So, but how did you all get involved in creating book covers? I think we spoke to you the last time, and you were saying that.
I don't even remember what I said. I probably said it was kind of accidental because I didn't work in publishing prior to this, but I've always just like making images and like picking type and like getting to that. Like we were just saying, like finding the thing that feels right is really like satisfying to me. So I'm glad to be here to do that every day.
In Milan, how long have you worked here?
15 years?
15 years. And how did you
15.
end up
Almost.
here?
No, 13.
13 years. How did you end up here?
I interviewed.
As a young, out of art school, or?
A friend actually recommended that I interview here for senior designer position. So
And were you a painter, a photographer, a graphic designer?
I went to art school. Then I worked at MTV, and then I did some book covers while I lived upstate, and that led to me
To what?
wanting to do way more book covers in my life.
And are you now tired, since you've been here for 13 years, of walking into a bookstore and seeing your stuff, or does it never get old?
Doesn't get old.
It's great. It's
Yeah.
great to feel that way about your
Yeah.
job.
The process can get old, but you know,
But that
get
can-
used to it.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what about you?
How did I get into it?
Yes.
I went to art school. Joe and I actually went to the same school.
And where
we
was that?
I went to Parsons.
Okay.
But I was also, Parsons is a part of a bigger school called the New School, plugging the New School right now. And so I was able to do a dual degree program there where I studied writing and also art. I actually studied illustration, so getting into design was not something I expected to do. But I also loved making books, like physical art books. So I was really into books as a form of art. And then I just found this job online. It was very serendipitous. I did not mean to find it. Like a lot of people, did not know that this was a job for a long time. Or, I mean, I knew that there were definitely designers that did it, but I didn't know much about it at all. I didn't know much about publishing on this scale at all. And then I came here, and I actually started off doing the position that Jessica's in right now. So I was the design assistant to the team for a year and a half before I became a designer. So I didn't actually plan on becoming a designer at all. I liked being with this group of people. I liked being in a creative place, even though I was doing more administrative work. And then I just started to do it more because there are a lot of books to design. When you're designing 120 books 3 times a year.
It's an amazing
Yeah.
amount.
So I kind of fell into it in a really nice way.
And what about you?
Yeah, so like Sarah said, I am the design assistant, so I help all the designers when they're doing all of their projects at once. It can get really chaotic, and I just help them make sure that they're up to date with everything, because after a while it starts to all pile on top of each other. But I actually, I just graduated from school. I also went to art school as well in illustration. It's weird.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I went to Pratt Institute.
Okay.
And by
So-
just graduated, Jessica
Like,
just graduated.
a month. It's
like a
been
month ago.
a month and a half. It's really
So we've
fresh
scooped up all of that young, creative, energetic power that you're bringing to the
right.
position.
So as soon as I finished, I was like, I'm ready to get started. And I actually came upon like the publishing industry because I have an amazing professor. Junior year, I took a class. It was a children's book class, and then after that, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a whole world, people who do books and design, and it's such a great combination of doing books and design, and it's 2 things I love so much. So even though I did start out doing more illustration stuff, I wanted to do more design as well, and the book publishing companies and just careers in general that have to do with book designing is just the best. You can get both, the best of both worlds.
And what about you?
My path was also a little serendipitous. I studied literature, but I was like obsessed with book covers, and I had favorite book cover designers. And then I just got lucky and applied for a job out of school. I had been designing. I had like art directed for our literary magazine. But I also at the time didn't understand that was like a real job you could have. I thought you just had to be like really, really lucky and really, really talented. But yeah, I applied for something in Chicago out of school, and I got started early on, and now I'm here. Yeah.
So one last thing before we sign off. Somebody says, I love designing too, but I'm self-taught. So can we amateurs apply for such a job? And it seems that you can.
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think if it's
If you're good, it
portfolio
shows.
based.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
So-
you're good, it shows.
So the message is, if you're good at so show what you got, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to leave you with this. Scooter and I have the opportunity sometimes to either shoot or post authors when their books come to their house.
That's cool.
And I have to say, I've seen authors many times cry when they open the box. And I'm not joking. I mean, they are moved to tears when they see the final package of their book. So I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to see that, but it's a very special moment. And I think it goes to show how part of the publication and the process that you guys really are. So thank you very much, and we hopefully will catch up with you next season.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking it out.
Thank you.
You guys were great. It's always so interesting.
This is just, I can't get it to finish. Don't worry, you're all